All right,
Okay, this is House Education, Wednesday, March 18, continuing our discussion on moving towards our goals of Act 73. We were last talking about fleshing out sort of roles and responsibilities of CISAs in a world in which we have CISAs in different parts of the state. So I think we have legislative counsel with us. I think one thing we can do is perhaps provide you some guidance to work on some language for us to look at. The committee can correct me if I'm wrong. So while we have not agreed on lines or anything, because we haven't discussed them, we have said that a CISA must work with member districts and SUs. The idea is here to bring them together to have talks with a goal of bringing together consolidate. I don't know what's quite how to frame it, but I'll let you do it. Of creating newer merged districts with student counts of 4,000 to the extent practical.
I'll say 2 to 4, just that's the.
I think Peter was trying to bridge the gap between the twos and the eights.
Yeah.
Proxy.
Yes, roughly 4,000 to the extent that it's practical.
Is this within the CSA's membership zone?
I would say we probably should have language that says it does not necessarily need to be limited to the CISA's. What did you call it? Zone? Something zone?
The membership zone?
Members in zone love it. Going to use it from this day forward.
Gen Z.
Oh, no, we're not, we're gonna, well,
Not TMZ.
And that these merger discussions should include the goal of regional high schools that offer students better access to programming and career technical education. Middle and high schools. That the CISA must also discuss or work collaboratively with member districts on providing special education services and administrative and financial services in ways that create efficiencies, increase offerings, and save money.
correct?
Anything else that folks want to talk about?
I think I might want to broaden the way we say, I think we have pretty shared intent around special education, but I don't know if I want to say provision of special education or if it's, because that could be professional development, that could be MTSS support, that could be like Act 173 implementation. I don't want to be overly prescriptive, nor do I want schools to freak out and say, oh my God, somebody else is going to do our special education now and how this is all. I just the phrasing of that.
Sure,
Like I need to looking because I had a draft. So
Beth?
I was thinking something similarly, about the implementation of Act 173 really being the goal, because if 17, not mine anyway, as if 173 is done well, that's where you're really going to have proactive, preventative interventions and reduce special education, requirements. So
Yes.
I'm not opposed to put something in there about assisting with the implementation of Act.
Right.
Your tiered supports, or, yeah, we have to work on the wording around.
Right, and as you say that, it also makes me think we don't want to
Be overly prescriptive.
overly prescriptive, because it also might be the low incidence, high costs. Specialized services that is such a challenge in our system right now of not having capacity places, of kids being on wait lists a really long time. Out of district placements more in some places.
Yep.
That isn't necessarily just an Act
Right,
173.
right. It has multiple layers. We have to definitely work on the wording
But,
around
yeah.
special ed.
Right, I was trying not to be
Sorry.
specific, 'cause
Yeah.
frankly, it's the job of the Agency of Education
Yes,
to
yes, yes.
implement Act 173, and I would not want to make it seem like it's the job of the CISA. to do that.
Right, it's the, yeah.
Right, I think it's more, it's likely would be that the CISA's, some of them are maybe going to be the home of some more professional development that gets us towards.
Yeah.
I guess that's the difference.
So maybe, and that the CISA will, work to, I think of, I don't know, think about some language. To me, it's all about low incidence, high cost
Right, right.
services, or services that it's hard to hire for because you only need that service for a short period of time, or for, I don't quite know how to phrase that. The idea is that the CISA would be required to also discuss how all of the things we talked about with special ed that a CISA can handle. I wonder if it isn't in the bylaws of the current existing BOCES. I don't know. Anyway, we all will think about that language. Any help you can provide would be fabulous.
Can I pull up the language we have now? Okay,
That would be helpful.
oh, that's St. James Office of Legislation. Okay. Remember this, the language that you have now is working within current law. We can do whatever you want with it. But this is the powers of CSAWs. So it starts broad. They figure out what educational programs, services, facilities, and staff they want to have to serve their members. Then I added this language that's been batted around. Are you envisioning the direction you just gave me related to working with the member districts, and then for mergers, and then working collaboratively regarding special ed and administrative services, and then whatever we refined that language to be? Are you envisioning it lives here with the powers and duties, or somewhere? Like, I'm trying to figure out, is this a one-time ask, or is this the direction for CSAWs in general?
This is the starter app, where the other things on the list would be later.
So that's a great, so would this be, do you envision a piece of session law as the starter language to get up off the ground over these next few years? And you have something different that lives in statute, or you could just leave it as it is currently, which is wide open, and then provide the session law direction, or?
I think off the top of my head, it would say shall at a minimum,
Okay,
uh, work with member districts, toward union school creation. And, providing business administrative services and special education.
okay.
Love to massage that language. And then, I don't know what we do with the rest of these as a sort of like suggested area of continued collaboration.
I think you could add it up here. So in addition to any other powers granted by law, have the power to provide educational blah, 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 the best serve the needs of its members, including professional development, curriculum development, transportation, and then whatever else. And then you can have this language that says at a minimum, a CISA shall provide these services. How does that sound?
That's what I
I
was
think it's a good way to start.
thinking, that
Okay.
1, 5, and 6, you have to do.
Yeah.
The others are optional.
No, I don't know if I actually feel strongly about this, but I wonder about requiring 5 at this point. Like the menu, yes, the consolidation work, yes, and special something, and the special education piece might take many forms. And it could be any of the others. But it might depend on who's in that CISA, whether there are things that can be, or maybe it's vague enough that like. it is
We're only
considered
requiring that
someone-
they talk about it.
Okay, right, never mind.
Chris?
Oh, wait, I'm gonna move away from this list for a minute, so I don't know.
All right, hang on.
Okay.
Good.
Okay. Chris?
I'm trying to solidify here, what language is making this mandatory for the districts or whatever's within this CISA to utilize it? Is it just the intent of the General Assembly?
That's really, that's a good question. There's nothing in here that requires a school district to use the services of a CISA.
Right, so we are going to mandate that they are a member of a CISA. And
But-
that the work of that CISA must include these things.
We're even gonna tell them what CISA they're gonna be in.
Yes,
Yeah, you create the CISA.
But they don't have to take advantage of any of the services, including
Right.
the redistricting conversation, the back office services, if they don't want to.
we need to change that.
Yeah, I mean, it is.
We need to mandate that they enter into these conversations on these, at least these 2 areas.
I see that living separately than your CISA enabling law. I
Okay,
see that living, and maybe we change our minds. But what I will bring back to you as my gut reaction is that the specificity around the merger conversations, I think you keep the general language we currently have around union school district creation, consultation, and facilitation. You keep that. And then we have some separate session law that's specific to this point in time about the 4,000 students, about the boundaries, about that, because 10 years from now, if you still want a core function to be union school district creation and consultation, those parameters are no longer going to be applicable probably. And within that, you can either bake it into the statute or you can just leave it to the separate session law that is meant to get at this moment in time regarding mandatory participation in those conversations.
One question, I guess, to the extent that we want those conversations about new district formation to sort of happen maybe on an accelerated timeline, I wonder, some of these other pieces, special education, professional development, like I just sort of envision that process might take a little bit longer, whereas having, regional conversations can happen quicker. So I think that maybe that argues in favor of what you're suggesting.
Yeah, if you pull out, I mean, yes, I think yes. I'm not gonna say it.
I think you bring up a good point. We need language that says that that the discussion about merging districts needs to be sort of a priority and on an accelerated timeline. I don't know what that language looks like.
Well, this is what I wasn't gonna say. You have created these seesaws, but you have not hired anyone. You have not drafted any bylaws. And so none of this work is going to start until the people are in place. And I can't provide you with any guidance on how quickly that can happen. So I worry that if we put in a timeline and it passes through the legislature, you may be setting the field up for failure if they can't even hire an executive director to do this work, who then would hire the facilitator, right?
Oh, well, yeah, it all boils down to who's gonna do it and when. But that's true for any of the stuff that we're talking about.
Correct.
All right, so if we were to work doing this, we're gonna create this, in law, we're gonna create CSAs. In law, we can establish membership of the governing CISA. In law, we can mandate that they hire somebody to be the executive director of the CISA. That's going to take an appropriation, but we've got lots and lots of appropriations that need to happen for transformation regardless. And we have costs that go along with transformation that to date, we haven't really accounted for, such as salary leveling up. But we are then, I would say we still don't have bylaws, as you say, and so we could have a standard set of bylaws. We could probably get some help from the national organization for that. Or form something that does that. But then we are down to like people. And how is the CSEP funded going forward? You know, what's the model of financial support that we would probably be mandating on school districts? Yes.
Add to that, when we had the testimony before on CSAs nationally, in addition to funding was governance. You know, is it an elected board? Is it made up of?
We have,
Independents?
we have
We
in
sort
here.
that out?
Yeah, your current law requires, let me find it. Oh, there.
And are we happy with what we currently have?
So currently, its seesaws are managed by boards of directors that are composed of one person appointed from the supervisory union board. And that's either a board member or the superintendent themselves from each of the members.
Makes sense. Then I guess we have to look at the map carefully. Some place is gonna have a board. 8 people.
Right. But if we have but I'm not sure how you would get around that.
Yeah.
Because they're all financial contributors to it, are gonna want to be part of the governance.
And you currently have articles of agreement under these changes bylaws defining the financial terms and conditions of membership and any applicable membership fee, as well as the service fees. So you don't even require a membership fee. You let under current law, all a policy choice.
Yeah. Emily,
So, the current BOCES that exists operates under the law you just described. And my understanding is that the boards who signed on, the boards of the SUs who signed on, and there's now a school district. And then the rest are SUs, there's 8 of them now a part of it. Appointed the superintendent to be that overseeing, that board of the BOCES, what we call them. This sort of
Board member.
And I'm trying to take that and envision this. And when we're talking, I think there'll be that seems to have worked really well because it's an administrative function. So it stands to reason that, the board gets updates from the BOCES, from the superintendent on the BOCES. When we add in the piece about redistricting the goal to have that conversation, I want to make sure that we're very clear about the separation between the board itself for the CISA and that work. Because the board itself, this is just my perception, but the board itself is overseeing that conversation, which will be, which will include the members of that CISA. Okay, so we're not talking about the board. I think it's just really important to remember that there's a lot of other things that the CISA will be doing that are administrative and need to continue to function. And separately, they will have a conversation going on overseen by a facilitator, because we kept talking about facilitators, to engage in that conversation with the members districts of those, or SUs, whatever they are. It's sort of a parallel conversation because there is a lot of other things that CISA board will need to be overseeing, the special ed and all of that. I just worry about us thinking about having a board member from each of those members running the CISA as opposed to the administrator running the CISA. Because, do you see what I'm getting at here?
Isn't it currently the administrator? It's from.
It is in that one, but I don't, and what you just read, it could be board, or it could be a board member. Somebody is appointed.
The board, so right,
board
it's on the
appoints.
screen, right? Okay, so board of directors.
Current law.
Yep,
Thank you.
anything that's not underlined or struck through is current law. The only change is the name here. Managed by a board of directors, which shall be composed of one person appointed annually by each SU board. And
It's the next sentence.
appointed person shall be members of a SU board or the superintendent or designee of the member supervisory union.
So that's the sentence that got me. If it literally could be a mix,
Mhm.
or it could be all board,
Mhm.
it could be all superintendent.
Correct.
And all I'm trying to get at is to make sure that the board of the CISA is set up in a way for optimal success. And now the current law,
I've moved you.
it doesn't matter, I'm not
Okay.
mad at that, but the current law that we were just talking about didn't have redistricting put into it, sort of current, and that's a political conversation. Often.
So where do we take that comment?
I'm trying to find a way to make sure that we set up board for success of the CISA for success and not have it become a political entity for redistricting. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I mean,
And
it needs to have a board of directors.
I'm not arguing that point, but I guess what I was trying to point out is
that it will not be that board who's facilitating the conversation likely. And the conversation won't be happening at that level, it'll be happening at the member level.
Yeah.
They'll have to be, and I want to make sure that we are very clear about that. That the members of that CISA will be the ones who will be making the decisions around what's right and what's wrong for the district. And I say it because
Yeah, I
they
just,
have other functions.
I don't quite know how to take those thoughts and put them into language.
I guess I'm going to suggest that it says, it should be administrative function of the board should be administrative, as opposed to board. Or mix.
The board is required to hire an executive director, right? Who will function like the superintendent of CISA. Superintendent is like the executive director of the supervisory union, and then there's the board. So I see a similar relationship between the school boards and their principals and the superintendent and the board and the CISA and its executive director. I'm not out in the field executing this, so perhaps that is not a good comparison, but that's how I'm thinking of it.
I don't know how to take, I want to set the board up for success into statutory language.
I think one of the things you have working in your favor is that there is already an entire piece of current law related to voluntary school district mergers in a very rote process. And so I envision referring to that. So I envision the language around the session law language that I would be putting together. You like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's certainly, it makes me feel a little more comfortable.
Okay.
You.
So, I very intentionally use the term union school district creation here because really the only option is a union school district under current law if you're talking about mergers. And so I would, again, off the top of my head, I'm envisioning coming back to you with some language related to, let's see. Facilitating member districts or supervisory unions creating study committees pursuant to, and then referring to the law. And the study committee membership is laid out in law and it is all school district.
That puts some boundaries around it that I needed to hear. Does that make sense?
I haven't heard in any of your conversations talking about creating a new process for union school district formation. So you really have that at your advantage, that it is a defined process that has been used for a long time.
Right. It is, I'm glad we have it. It has the potential to fail.
It's voluntary.
If it's voluntary and requires a vote of the electorate.
You can change, I mean, this
We can
is,
change it, or we can say the electorate is the electorate. The electorate doesn't want to do it, they don't have to do it. I mean, there is a certain point at which democracy speaks. Yes.
I think that if we're going to go that route, we need to find a different word than fail to describe what happens there.
already set out in current law. So it's like, here, let's just look at it. Who knew when we were rewriting this chapter?
Yeah, I know.
That all of, I would.
Whoever put the work into this did a great job.
Mhm.
Stellar, absolutely stellar.
It was not me, it was Donna Russo Savage and our former director of election.
Well, I was really talking about the member of the committee.
Oh, it was you. I think you. Okay. Look at me trying to pat my own back. Okay. So subchapter 2 in chapter 11 and title 16 is all about exploration, formation, and organization. Unless you tell me otherwise, every step of the way, I'm going to borrow specific language from all of these sections or refer explicitly to these sections. So, section 708 talks about what the study committee process looks like. And there's provisions in here for like the superintendent may have to convene the study committee's first meeting. But there's provisions for, for everyone's role on this. There's advisable and non-advisable. So even if you have someone who doesn't want to come to the table, they can still be tagged as being integral to the formation of that school. I mean, they're like, this is all very specific. But built right into this section is that if a study committee proposes formation of a union school district, then the study committee ceases to exist once all of the other processes have gone on. But if a study committee determines that it is inadvisable to propose formation, then the study committee shall cease to exist and you go back to square one. So I would use that term if the study committee determines it is inadvisable to form a union school district rather than fail or whatever.
Talks about a vote.
Okay, let's go look at it.
But stay here for a second,
Okay.
please. All right, again, I think we should just make this a caveat of any conversation we're having here. We're all just thinking out loud. I'm now going to think out loud. Don't know if I agree with what I'm going to say. But what we are, I think that what we are essentially doing here is requiring that study committees be formed. We're not saying it's an option.
And the CSA facilitator would be the one identifying who would be on the study committees.
Let's say yes for the moment.
Okay.
Because if we require that they form a study committee, we could also require that that study committee come out with a proposal for a union school district.
I don't think you can require that they come out with a proposal for a union school district, but you can require something to advance to the voters.
Well, that's
Yes.
that's kind of
Yes.
where I was going,
Yes.
was that they have to require. Yes,
A single or could you? Multiple?
Yeah, I mean, that's-
Otherwise, we're headed towards
Yeah.
that many giant districts.
I think I don't think that I think this is something we can keep teasing out.
yeah,
Okay.
I don't think you can require a set of humans to come up with a certain outcome. But I do think you can require a process to advance,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
And so I think the next hurdle will be what goes to the voters. Because if the study committee says, yes, we see 2 union school districts here or 1 union school district, and then that goes to the voters, that's pretty clear cut. It's already spelled out in law. But if they say, no one on this study committee thinks anyone on this study committee should merge, or we think only 3 out of the 5 districts on this study committee should merge, then what goes to the voters? The voters of and the which voters? Yeah, I mean, because the vote now to form a union school district goes to the electorate of the proposed new union school district. So I'm not saying that this is a hurdle. We would just need to think through all of the details. You could have. Here's something. Oh, boy. Withdrawal. I think the process for withdrawal is a little more similar to what you were looking for here. We keep all of the study committee requirements, but withdrawal says, let's see, there is a withdrawal study committee. Sorry, I can make it bigger. Hold on. There's a withdrawal study committee. they have to come up with all of these findings. Shall evaluate the educational advantages and disadvantages likely to result from the withdrawal of the petitioning town, both on the students residing in the new school district and then the students that would remain in the Union School District, educational advantages and disadvantages, financial advantages of withdrawal, financial advantages of continued inclusion, the likely operation on financial viability and sustainability of both the new standalone district and the Union School District after withdrawal. My favorite catch-all. Who's going to be the supervisory union of this new member district? This was a big issue with Lincoln, remember, when they withdrew. They have to have a report with all of their analysis there. If after conducting the analysis, the withdrawal study committee, it votes to advance the withdrawal process, then the committee prepares a report. And
Just, I want to be clear, you're kind of talking about doing this in reverse. In reverse.
This entire.
Yes,
process.
yes.
It's really laid
And
out.
maybe not exactly this process, but this is, you know, you could require certain analyses to be in a report, but bear with me. Oh, no, it doesn't. There were options we were considering, I think, of withdrawal going to the voters regardless of what the withdrawal study committee. Let's see. Where did we end up? Okay. Vote. There were definitely versions of this that we contemplated that I still have access to, so I can try and find them. But I believe there were versions where it went to the electorate no matter what. No matter what the,
Withdrawal committee.
yeah. It does go to the voters no matter what, regardless of what the state board recommends. So if the withdrawal study committee does recommend withdrawal, then it goes to the state board to make recommendations. And it goes to the electorate regardless of what the recommendation of the state board is. But if the withdrawal study committee says, no, we don't think withdrawal is advisable, then it doesn't go to the state board and it doesn't go to the electorate. This is definitely an area we can keep teasing out.
Yep.
I can't guarantee you that it will come to a satisfactory conclusion, but you may have something to work with here.
Okay,
Oh. So we're requiring study committee. You've required the membership of the study committee, they're meeting. Do you want to keep current law for what they consider, or do you want to add?
I think that, all right. So that the study committee should represent the goal of roughly 4,000 students.
So
Sounds
that's
practical. So now the study committee itself doesn't have to consider that they are just that goal.
Ah, okay.
In other words, the facilitator would be bringing them together in groups of 4,000 students. They can, the people in that area can help figure that out.
That makes sense.
Okay,
Do they have to be contiguous?
yes.
What about? Does anyone know where I'm going? Operating structure.
something I mentioned before.
Yes, no, yeah, so I think, good question. This is sort of where we might not all agree. I believe that the goal should be to have K-12 operating structures within these new districts.
Would disagree with that point, just out of a practical reason. Practicality, you know, someday down the line in the far future, that could happen. See where I live and
Well, let's put that as a, what was your specific question with operating structure? Was that it?
You've given the facilitator direction to group folks for mandatory study committees that would result in 4,000 ADM as practical. It'd have to be contiguous. But unless you're taking into account operating structure,
Some in my area don't have anybody who can take this.
well, yeah, and if under if in the membership area of the seesaw, in order to get to 4,000 for your study committees, you have to put non-operating and operating districts together on a study committee. Without further direction by the General Assembly, you are leaving it up to them as an all or nothing. Because under current law, there's no explicit permission to both operate and tuition in the same district.
All right, we're back to where we always end up. Josh?
Why does it have to be contiguous?
Because the goal here is, you know, if you think about my map, Chris's language, the governor's map, anybody's map, it is about having a more efficient system and to have a system that is, it's not more efficient if half your district is separated out by another district.
What if you're doing it as like a like for like type of situation? That
You know, then we're really just talking about SUs again,
not necessarily.
because it would be, I mean, I think there's a certain practicality of having things contiguous. As opposed to not having a contiguous, I'm trying to sort of play it all out in my head. You know, if you are creating a group of 4,000 ADM and they aren't contiguous, geography is going to be a hindrance to gaining efficiencies.
Potentially, but I mean, by being contiguous, you're, limiting that group's options for how they create their districts.
I'd say it's somewhat in conflict with having larger regional, middle, and high schools. If you are sort of creating districts where part of your district is interrupted by another district. Again, thinking out loud here as best I can. All right, so. Please,
I mean,
somebody.
it's gonna lead us back into the vortex here that we're already in, but does contracting or designation language, it's sort of a middle path of which schools are then in that district and still being utilized as de facto public school, but gets us out of how to deal with two different delivery structures. I don't know.
Is there an option for us where we just to ask another question on top of that one, or is there an option for us to leave that governance piece more open-ended?
Yeah, I mean,
If we modify kind of what's strictly in current law, I feel like maybe that we should think, yeah.
I think you can, I think you can do multiple different things depending on what your ultimate goal is. You could use some notwithstanding language and then build in whatever you want to allow. Whether that is explicit or you leave it up to the districts themselves to figure it out. You could require check back to the General Assembly. Not necessarily for approval of the school district formation, although technically in the universe of possibilities, that is an option. But maybe so that you can figure out what, if and where you need to amend the law to allow this new landscape to flourish. You could just amend the law now and say, starting in whenever the foundation formula takes effect, this will be the allowable operating structures within one school district. Study committees work towards this goal. And you align the operational date with that change. You could not touch it and not give any direction and see what you get.
Yeah.
That's what you're suggesting?
Yes, I think so.
And so
For
that
now,
still
I
remains.
think for now.
Yeah, just I just wonder if there's a way for us to sort of foster an environment for these conversations that may ultimately run into all of the familiar roadblocks, but like kind of let's see how far we get.
I would definitely suggest some sort of report back to you all from the CSAs with all of the details of these conversations, the good, the bad, and the ugly, so that that can inform future legislative choices. But yes, you don't have to do anything. You can allow the CSA facilitator put together non-like and non-like and see what happens.
For the time being, let's do that. I hate to say, could you put that on the language, but more to say, could you just make sure you note that in an outline for language? All right. My brain doesn't work anymore. Anybody else?
It's made great progress.
I think we're getting somewhere.
Thank you for that encouragement.
I'm serious. This is great.
We appreciate it.
I mean, I think that it is very important that you have brought us back to that we have systems in place and we have existing law that we can take advantage of
Yes.
rather than continually trying to reinvent the wheel to move us there. The question is, is this just Act 46 all over again? In a way it is, but in a way it always has been. Because Act 46's goal was newer, larger districts. We're all trying to respond to many different things here. What we think works, what we think our community thinks works. We think the state needs and wants, and we are every day getting lots and lots of mixed messages from everybody. But this is helpful. Yeah. All right. I'm gonna call it there. Do you have stuff you can work on with what we've given you?
Yes.
All right.
Again, my comment of you guys have done great. I think this is great. Is a nonpartisan comment.
No, I appreciate that.
No political perspective on this. I just mean you're moving.
Well, more importantly, we're giving you
Yeah.
things you know what to do.
I was trying not to say that, but great.
Yes.
Great. Thank you. We'll hold there. If we could hold you for just, could I just speak for a few minutes just about another thing?
Are we meeting after the floor today?
The floor may be well into dinner time.
I know.
I'm assuming no